All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what happened with the live stream. I was getting a lot of feedback from the audience, basically saying that the video was going in and out. I wasn't getting any notifications on my end, but I did have my audio muted. So we're just going to start this from the beginning. It sucks. I've covered a lot, but we're just going to basically start it over with some cliff notes. The first note that I wanted to make is Karate Combat is coming up. So make sure you check it out, karate.com. Download the app, iOS or Android. You get some free karate tokens. And you can bet on fights with those tokens, and it's play to win, play to earn kind of thing. Like, it's an always up dynamic, so you never lose your tokens. You can only earn more. Big fight coming up, KC 43. This is on December 15th, and on the 14th in Vegas. Myself and many others that you know and love on YouTube that we're all fighting on the KC 44 in the Dominican Republic. We're all going to be at a big event at the Gold Spike. Get your tickets. All of us are putting out links all over the place. Make sure you check it out. We'd love to see you guys there. I want to meet all of you guys. I think it's going to be a great time. You're absolutely going to love these Karate Combat events. I'm telling you, you've never seen anything like it. They're high energy. The crowds are great. There's just so much popping all the time, and it's in a bit of a more intimate setting than like a ginormous 80,000 seat arena with the UFC, where you're like, you know, you're spending thousands of dollars for nosebleed tickets just to watch two ants, you know, wrestle in the middle of a little box. Okay, you're up close and personal at these events. You can feel every hit. I'm telling you, there's no better. There's nothing better. And Karate Combat is now pretty sure officially the third largest promotion in the country, and they're doing the thing. And you guys are going to really have a good time. So make sure you check that out. Next on the list here is gold is at an inflection point. Ignore perma bulls and crypto bros. Stock bulls disbelieve new data. So basically what this whole thing was is I was talking about gold and how gold to me is such a hustle. And even this article points out prudent investors should consider ignoring gold perma bulls. Perma gold bulls tend to strongly believe in conspiracy theories of central banks colluding with large commercial banks to keep gold and silver low. Many times, the prominent perma gold bulls have a vested interest because they are in the business of selling gold and silver to the masses. And that was my point in what I was talking about earlier. That's true. And to me, I feel like gold is such a hustle. And it's like, you know, it's not like crypto. It's not like Bitcoin, right? Like, people buy gold because they think it's going up. They expect the value to go up. People buy it as a hedge against inflation and the decreasing value of the dollar, all of that stuff. And that makes sense if you're buying long term. So if you're buying gold to store it away for a decade or something for retirement or what have you, then it'll likely be worthwhile investment. To me, my opinion is it's probably not a better investment. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to say I'd prefer Bitcoin personally. That's what I'm doing. Why? Because I've talked to brokers and I've looked into buying gold. And the reality is, if I bought let's just say gold was $1,000 an ounce, and I buy 10 ounces of it. Okay, so that's 10 grand that I've spent on 10 ounces of gold. Let's say the price goes up $100, and then I decide, you know what, I need the money. I'm going to go sell it and make $1,000 profit. Wrong. You're not doing that, because when you take it back to the broker and you say, hey, my gold went up $1,000 an ounce. I'd like the 11,000 back, please. And they're going to say, oh, sorry, no, we buy it back at a 20% discount. We have to buy it wholesale from you so that we can retail it later. So you're not selling it for what its value is. You're selling it for whatever the broker is willing to pay for it. And it's basically like wheeling and dealing a used car. And so that's the nature of it. And so for me, I just stay away from gold. I was looking into buying a good amount of gold at one point. I think it was like $1,800. I don't remember. It was a little while back, and I was watching all these videos, reading all this stuff, and it's all just a big hustle. And it seems like anytime I see an article that's related to the potential value of gold, it's always some form of advertisement for some gold broker. Buy our gold, it's more pure. Buy our gold, we have a better reputation. And it's like it's such a hustle, because really you don't know who's reputable in the gold business. And so many of these people are like just looking to rip everyone off. And I stay away from it personally. And this article is kind of an example of that. So I don't bother. But, you know, long term, it could be beneficial. So I don't know. You do at your own risk. But I would highly encourage anybody that's looking at gold to do so after a significant amount of research. Just don't dive in, because there are traps and pitfalls to just about anything. Check out murderofcrows.io if you're so inclined to pick up some NFTs NFTs for fun and giggles. You can mint up to 10 of these puppies at a time, and it all flows into my wallet. That helps me pay for other projects that I'm working on. So I greatly appreciate it. I also want to touch base on DeFi Kingdoms, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is not a Cardano project, but this is one that I've taken an interest in lately. And this isn't a deep dive on this project whatsoever, but I am talking to Dreamer because I really, really like this, guys. I really do. And I'm aware of the history and the hiccups and the things, but I'm aware that the value of the tokens have dropped significantly. And, you know, I've talked to Dreamer at length about a lot of this stuff. He is so passionate about this project that he is actually fighting on this upcoming Karate Combat card with the rest of us influencers because he wants to try and build more brand awareness for DeFi Kingdoms. I'm like, you want to talk about putting your ass on the line because you're trying to promote something you believe in. I came to him and started talking to him about this, not having a clue he was on this card, and just talking with him. I'm like, this guy is so cool. And he just has like this, he kind of reminds me of me a bit, where he's just trying to do something that's fascinating and fun in a way that kind of helps everybody become a part of something, and like everybody wins. And I am trying to talk to him, and we are kind of trying to figure out how could we potentially do this with new assets and just kind of new everything, but similar back-end systems, and actually do it on Cardano. And so, you know, let me know in the comments below, like if you're familiar with DeFi Kingdoms. I know Crypto Grady is I discovered this through Crypto Grady. So he does a lot of content, a lot of how-to guides on DeFi Kingdoms. It's very complicated. I'm not going to lie. I haven't even started in this yet because I feel like there's so many, like, it's almost like entering a maze kind of in the dark. If you don't know what you're doing, you really have to know what you're doing, because there's a lot of different yield. There's a lot of there's so much to it. I don't even know where to begin, but check it out and know that I am trying to figure out a way that we could get this done on Cardano. I think this would be an absolutely phenomenal project for the Cardano blockchain. You know, I'm working on some stuff. I'm working on a game. I think I might actually be settling on a trading card game initially, that I want to build on the Cardano blockchain. We're working on figuring a lot of that out. We've had a lot of meetings. We had a meeting yesterday, as a matter of fact, with the big AAA developer guy, and he's pointing us in the right direction for other people. We've got another meeting Friday. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's coming. But for the time being, check out DeFi Kingdoms. I really think you'll like it. Let me know what you think. And in the midst of all of it, you can always check out Crow tokens on ViFi. I would love to get these listed on like a centralized exchange, like a BitTrue or a KuCoin or something like that. I mean, anything really. You know, I've been talking to Fairdesk, my trade sponsor, and they're like, you know, when we launch a spot exchange, then we might be able to do something. But for right now, it's just kind of hanging out on ViFi, the DeFi exchange. You can pick it up there. There's a link on the website, crowtokens.com. Now, central banker says crypto miserably failed the test of money, will make way for CBDCs and TradeFi products, says a report. I mean, of course they are. Like, what else are they going to say? No, our competition is flawless. It's amazing. We can't wait. The head of Singapore Central Bank doesn't think crypto has a future in financial services. Ravi Menon, the managing director of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, said in a speech earlier this month that cryptocurrencies have failed the test of digital money. Quote, they have performed poorly as a medium of exchange or store of value. Their prices are subject to sharp speculative swings. Many investors in cryptocurrencies have suffered significant losses. Yes, well, that's also because it's all still in its infancy. This is what I say all the time. You know, if you're buying at the peak of the market, and you know what, here's what's funny, is so much of the money that goes in to the marketing of all of the talking heads in mainstream media, like the Kramers and all these guys that are obviously so like bought and paid for on so many different levels. In my opinion, I mean, we see it anytime the talking heads on any kind of major mainstream news media, anytime they say anything, the opposite is the reality. Like the opposite is what happens. And we're seeing that across all industries and all, I mean, pretty much everything. Right. And so when I see a lot of this stuff, I think, okay, so they're trying to constantly project this image of it's not safe, it's used for crime, it's like all of these terrible bad things. But Why are all the major institutions suddenly getting involved? And why do they all have their own investment vehicles? And why are they all trying to get ETFs passed? Why are they all trying to be a part of a party that's full of things that you know they demonize? I don't understand. Does that make any sense? Make it make sense to me. Can you? Let me know in the comments. Why are they all working so hard at trying to get involved and position themselves in a place of profitability within a space that they demonize and have demonized for so long now? But I don't know. That's just my opinion. You know, maybe they're not. But you know, when I see this and I think, you know, what is the narrative that all of these groups are putting out, and why? And you know, like I said, obviously they want CBDCs. They want to be able to track everything. They want to know everything. They want to be able to control everything that you spend your money on. And here's the thing. You know, whether it's the CBDCs or whatever, or they're like it's a stable coin that they control in a centralized way. Decentralized cryptocurrency, you know, just the very nature of Bitcoin as a whole is exactly, it was created specifically to fight exactly what they're trying to present and what they're trying to maintain. They want central control, because if they don't have central control, they can no longer control the populace. If they can't control the populace, well, that's bad for elections. That's bad for all of these deeply rooted relationships where this politician's helping this group and that group. And, you know, it just completely destroys the fabric of the way that things work and that have not been working to the public's benefit for decades and decades and decades. And they're trying so hard across the board, whether it's politically, financially, you name it. They're trying so hard to maintain that control that they've had for so long. And social media has opened the eyes of so many to what's actually been going on, especially since 2020. So many eyes have been opened since 2020. And it's absolutely mind-blowing that there are still so many people out there that believe a lot of these narratives, and they really take them to heart. But, you know, they're going to learn. And those are going to be the same people that are going to be pointing the finger at why they haven't achieved anything, why they're so lost, why they need to resort to the government to basically get anything at all. You know, they're not going to realize until it's too late that they basically created their own coffins. And now that they're being laid down in them, they're going to be really, really upset. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people to say, well, here's a helping hand. We tried to help you through all these years, but you kept fighting it. You kept fighting us. You keep telling us we were crazy and we're conspiracy theorists and we're nuts. And just fighting the opposition to what was trying to save you from the beginning. And, you know, it's like you can't help some of these people, because honestly, I've had so many chats with a lot of them just they really don't tend to make a lot of sense. And as soon as they recognize that you're not going to just blindly agree with them based on emotion alone, they get really, really angry and irritated. And then, of course, it goes down into the insults and just the pure toxicity that ultimately is kind of the world a lot of these people evolve in. And it's like, it's sad to me because I see it all the time. And I really wish there was a way to reach some of these folks and really say, listen, here's A, B, and C, and it's just that simple. But it's just nothing is that simple, especially when you're constantly being bombarded by just indoctrination and propaganda that's telling you something new, and especially from sources that, you know, some people are so dialed into different media outlets and things that they've been trusting for decades, and they don't see how these media outlets have changed. And I can't even go deep into that, but there are even legal reasons why, and I've done videos on it in the past. You know, let's just say that the floodgates have been opened by a particular administration that said, yeah, you can go ahead and playing around propaganda and brainwashing people. You don't have to be honest. I mean, why be honest? If it doesn't serve our agenda or our goals, you don't have to be honest anymore, which is why some of these networks have basically taken that ball and ran with it hard. Anyway, it is what it is at this point, but I do fear a lot of stuff going on. Blackrock officials have officially met with the SEC officials again today for Bitcoin spot ETF. Here are the meeting details. According to information shared by Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas, BlackRock met again with the SEC's Trading and Markets Department yesterday and presented a revised in-kind model design for the Bitcoin spot ETF based on SEC staff comments at the November 20th meeting. The following people, including NASDAQ officials, were present at the meeting between BlackRock and the SEC. I got a little list there, everybody involved in that meeting. The in-kind Bitcoin spot ETF can be described as a type of exchange-traded fund that holds BTC directly as the underlying asset. When an investor purchases shares in such a Bitcoin ETF, the provider company purchases an equivalent amount of Bitcoin on the open market and adds it to its holdings. Likewise, when they sell their shares, the ETF provider sells the equivalent amount of Bitcoin from their holdings. Now, I know that this is how this is supposed to work, but my question is, does it really? And if this is the case, this is still so easily manipulatable. Because let's just say hypothetically, BlackRock, maybe they've got $1 billion or $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. But when this ETF basically passes, and some people are saying, oh, they're already accumulating. They're already accumulating. Well, what if they have been for a while now and planning for this? So what we're thinking is that the price is built in, right? And so when the Bitcoin ETF officially launches, and at that point is when they have to start buying it specifically for the ETF, what do you think is likely? If they've been accumulating this whole time, and they've had these plans, like these things don't just start, okay? They don't just start out of nowhere, all right? I would hazard a guess that when the news has officially come out, we're already going to be seeing a downturn in Bitcoin's price. Why? Because if they're not able to legally or officially buy Bitcoin until the ETFs have been approved by the SEC, that means that they've been pumping the value of Bitcoin on themselves for their ETF. Well, let's say they've got $1 million or $2 billion in Bitcoin. I've done calculations on what it takes just to drop Bitcoin's price to by $1,000. I think it was like 24 million bucks or something to drop Bitcoin's price down $1,000. You can calculate it up in the order books, right? Well, let's say they put $1 billion in and they start tanking the market so that they can then they spend the $2 billion that has been rising this whole time in value since whenever they started accumulating it. They use that $2 billion to dump the price of Bitcoin so that they can then reaccumulate it through their official ETF. And maybe they've got $5-10 billion or $100 billion, however much they're going to put into it. So they're spending a couple billion over time to give themselves a means of plummeting the price so that they can then turn around, pick it up at a new low that they then control so that they can then accumulate for the ETF. Which in some ways will help anybody that's buying into that new investment vehicle. It obviously helps them, but I don't really know how a lot of these things work. I just know that, especially given the fact that, and this is also what kind of is, it's interesting to me, and I don't understand this side of things. If Bitcoin is not a security, based on their own claims, why then is BlackRock having to go through the SEC to come to terms about an ETF? Is it because that once an ETF is established, or the means by which that ETF is it just like, well, the SEC is the governing body or the regulating body of just any ETF because it's an investment vehicle that ultimately then creates and sells a security? Not that Bitcoin is the security, but the ETF itself is. Is that it? I don't know, because I'm not a financial guy. I'm just some guy on the internet. I just try to help people as best I can with what I know, and that's it. I claim to be nothing more, never have. But anyway, that's kind of the nature of that. I just expected, everybody thinks that when this spot ETF launches that it's somehow going to send Bitcoin to the moon immediately. And my guess is that if it launches before the halving, that is going to be the catalyst for us seeing a significant drop. And a part of that 40 to 60% drop that we have seen in previous cycles leading into the halving before it starts to turn around and then starts going parabolic shortly after. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. We're going to find out. Cardano, oh boy. Cardano price predictions for 2025 point to a surge of as much as 10,000%. I mean, that would be nice. I've come up with a lot of these numbers myself. I've worked up all these things, but I never get written up for it. I don't know what makes a lot of these other people special, because honestly, I've put out all of this stuff in multiple ways over the years and nobody's written any articles about it. I don't know if I have to pay somebody or what. The price of the native token of the smart contract platform, Cardano, ADA, has moved up by over 55% this year amid a wider cryptocurrency market rise, and Cardano price predictions for 2025 are now increasingly bullish. Yes, we are very well aware. As Crypto Globe reported, various analysts have made bullish Cardano price predictions for next year, with some analysts pointing to a price target as high as $30, up from its current level near 38 cents. Cardano's all-time high, it's worth noting, was above the $3 mark back in 2021. And, ultimately what this is boiling down is, Cardano's dominance and its increase in dominance between 1 and 5%. We are almost at 5% in the peak of the last cycle when Cardano's price peaked, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin peaked first, then Cardano. And so what you saw is, Bitcoin peaked and then its dominance dropped in favor of a lot of the more prominent altcoins. And keep in mind, Cardano hit almost 5% in the last cycle before it was even really finished. It was just getting ready to launch smart contracts at the time. It didn't even have any of the use case it has today. So I expect to see this 5% actually get maybe even somewhere between 7 and 8% in the next market. But we'll see. I don't know. Even if it just got back to 5%, but the overall market capitalization of crypto got to $3 or $4 trillion. I mean, you can figure it out. 1% dominance at 10 trillion is a $3 ADA, but I'm not even worried about that. I think we're going to see at least a 5% dominance by the time it peaks. And this is assuming we have a $10 trillion market cap. Basically saying, okay, well, Cardano would go to $14 if it had 5% dominance of a $10 trillion market cap. That all sounds good. I personally think we might see 6 or 7% dominance of Cardano at somewhere between a $5 and $6 trillion market cap. Why? Because honestly, with these ETFs, everybody thinks that these ETFs are going to add trillions and trillions of dollars to the market cap, and it will overall, but it won't be as liquid. In other words, if let's just say BlackRock and all of these other investment houses, they all decide we're going to launch a spot ETF. And maybe they end up with $5 trillion to launch this ETF. Well, what's going to happen is it's not like that $5 trillion is going to first go into Bitcoin and then spill into the altcoin markets once Bitcoin peaks. Some of that will happen, but it won't be the money that's going into these ETF funds. Okay, so we're used to seeing a market where people buy into a particular asset. Let's say they buy into Bitcoin and I buy Bitcoin at $5,000, it goes up to $20,000. I'm selling that $20,000 Bitcoin to then accumulate altcoins and push those up further and make another, 5x return at the last minute before we drop significantly, a couple days later. We're not going to see that. We're going to see it, but we're not going to see it with all of the money going into these ETF funds. What goes into these ETFs is likely going to stay in these ETFs. What's going to be different is the number of people that did accumulate outside of these ETFs, bought on their own exchanges by their own hand and ride the wave up, and then that money will spill in, but it will be a fraction of or a percentage of the overall market capitalization, not the total market capitalization. Does that make sense? That's basically what I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to see this market perform in astronomical ways by 2025. I really am. And I still get messages from friends and things asking me, like, what do you think the top of Cardano is going to be? And I'm like, you know what? At this point, dude, I have no idea. I'm hoping to see $6, but we could see 20. I just don't know. There's so much that's going to change between now and the peak of the 2025 market. There's no way to know 100%. You can try and establish a guess, and that's all that any of us do on YouTube. We try to establish a solid guess based off of history, based off of what we know, what we've seen. And I think Cardano is going to do phenomenally well. And I think it's going to do well on its own merit, not because of a lot of like pump and dump hype and a lot of paid advertising and a lot of paid for narratives and all of that. None of us on YouTube get paid anything to talk about Cardano. We do it out of the passion for the project. And I know that Charles, he says a lot. Charles says a lot all over the place. And you know, sometimes he rubs other communities the wrong way. I get it. I know he said some things that people have been kind of, I don't know if they're misinterpreting it or just it doesn't like it. You know, people in the XRP community, you know, he's made a lot of claims, and you know what? I can tell you, Charles probably knows a hell of a lot more than the majority of us do. So while we may not like what we hear sometimes, my guess is that he's probably not saying a lot of these things because he has no grounds to say it. Otherwise, he knows he'd be very liable for anybody that just decides to sue him or take him to court. Nobody's done that. And I'm not saying anybody should. I'm just saying that I don't think he's being as free with his words as some like to think. And I definitely don't see it as coming from a place of like, I don't like XRP, it's trash, so I'm going to trash talk it. I don't think that's what he's doing at all. I think he's really disgusted with these narratives that the SEC and these regulatory bodies are spewing all over the place, trying to oppress some of the most prominent leaders of the cryptocurrency space. And I think that in his explanations of why he's frustrated, it looks like he's poking at or pointing at other projects that are, you know, decent projects on their own merit for different reasons, different use cases. And some of the people in those communities are getting really bothered by it. But listen, I mean, it is what it is. It's one of those things where, you know, we all have our favorite projects. We all have projects that we don't think should be doing as well as they are. And you know what? But who's to decide? Who's the judge? And that's the reality of it. I've watched Solana double in no time at all for whatever reason, whether it's artificially being pumped by the whales that hold them, by the narratives that are being paid for, or not. Maybe it's just being used that much. I don't know. All I do is share my opinion based off of what I see. I call it how I see it, and I'm always right sometimes. And that's the best any of us could do in this space because it's all still new. Even though many of us have been around for years and years already, and we've seen everything come and go, the reality is it's all still new. And I think it's also one of the reasons why the SEC hasn't put out any real clear regulatory framework yet, because it's all still new. Every cycle, the entire industry changes on a dime. It changes so dramatically, and trying to keep up with the technology at the rate it's growing. Look at artificial intelligence as a prime example. I mean, 1 minute it's brand new to the scene, and the next minute everybody's worried about it taking over the world because it's got a mind of its own. Things in technology grow exponentially faster and faster every single day, every month, every year. The technology, the processing speeds, typically at one point we were doubling processing power every year. I think it was every year, maybe it was every 3 years. I don't remember what the equation was, but a lot, very fast. It is what it is, folks. We're all doing the best we can, and all we really want is fairness. That's all we want. We want fairness. We want to know that what we're doing is okay, because what we're doing is trying to help everybody be in a better position in life. That's it. That's really what it all boils down to. It's what Charles is building Cardano for. It's what a lot of these blockchain projects are building for. Yes, when projects do well, people make money. And that's fantastic, especially because the old way of doing business has kept so many people down for so long. And you got to be a part of this network or that network. And you got to have money. You got to have daddy and mommy's money to be able to buy your bonds and your stocks and everything else. And this is cryptocurrency is given the opportunity for every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there with a couple bucks in their wallet to do a little research and turn that few bucks into many bucks, and to turn that many bucks into even more bucks, and ultimately change their lives for the better. And yes, there are a lot of bad players in that. You know, there are a lot of bad players in the cryptocurrency space, as there are in any industry in the world. It doesn't matter whether it's a casino or I mean, hell, it really just doesn't matter. Look at Big Pharma. I mean, you know what? We're not shutting down all of the big pharmacies. They're just getting fined to death, right? I mean, how many times do we see a lot of these pharmaceutical companies just get fined in astronomical ways, but they're not shut down. Nobody says, no, you can't keep doing that. But you just have to pay you just got to pay the fee, right? So it is what it is, man. You know, and I think that, you know, in time, I think things are going to get better. I really do. And I don't think it's, you know, just like they say in the movie The Crow, it can't rain all the time. The sky won't fall forever. And I think at some point we're going to see a dramatic change in the way the world looks at just about everything. Hopefully that's for all of us. And hopefully it all is better. So I don't know. Until next time, guys, crow your coins. I'll see you soon. Have a great afternoon.